Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is March 15th and it's my weekly shop update. So it's been a little while. I didn't post an update last week. I have been trying to plug away as much as possible on this hand tool cabinet here because Lindsay is due with our third next week. So that's going to be crazy. So I want to at least get far enough ahead on this thing so that when the baby comes, we're kind of like, it's not so hectic. It's already gonna be hectic enough. I don't have to worry about finishing this thing or be working on this thing while we're trying to enjoy some time with our new child. So anyway, I've been plugging away at the hand tool cabinet. It has been, there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on with this thing. Last 2 weeks ago, on my last update, I had just finished up the joinery on the inner frames, and I had yet to cut the joinery on the outer frames. Well, now I have the joinery cut on all the frames. I have the inner frames glued up with their panels in there, and I have some nice sweet panels to go into my outer frames, which I'll show you in just a second. So as the same as the joinery on the, I guess the rest of the case, these guys are all through mitered dovetails once again. So there is your pin board. You got the two outside pins that are mitered because these are the outside doors. So you want a nice miter on both inside and outside. And then that right there is your tailboard. So you got the same kind of thing. You got some miters going on there and it comes together really cleanly. So another thing that's pretty exciting about this whole process is the doors as well as the case are all from, well, they're from two wide boards. So I have some grain continuity here, and then the front doors are book matched. So I was able to somehow get all the parts cut and put together so that I actually have my grain continuity and book matched joint here without, screwing something up and putting something the wrong way or whatever. That's the thing that always worries me about continuous grain designs, is my own ability to actually execute them without messing up. So this side as well as the other side, the door and the case came from one wider board, and then the door frame on the outside here came from a second board. So this is a book match seam, and then this is an actual continuous grain seam, which is pretty cool. And I love the look of all these dovetails. It just looks super ridiculously awesome. What's really cool about this is because I did a half tail here. When it's closed up like this is like one wide tail here instead of the half tail you have if they're separate pieces. So it's kind of a fun small detail. So one question I got last time regarding the doors on the cabinet had to do with clearances for hinges. And because these doors are overlay, they're on top of the case, the pivot point's out here in line with the, I guess, the inside face of the door. The depth of the door is irrelevant as far as the space needed to actually operate these doors. So this thing swings no problem, even though I only have a little gap over there. So that's just something to keep in mind. If these were inset, then you would have to worry about the thickness of the door because your pivot point is out here and the other corner there has to be able to swing in. So then you're dealing with the diagonal measurement from here to here. So as it's swinging into the opening, it's actually getting wider for a bit until it gets down to the final size, which is over here. So pivot points are different on inset, but overlay, doesn't matter how thick the doors are. Just kind of a fun thing. So I also found my drawer fronts for the bottom here. These are some stabilized spalted birch. So I got nice continuous grain for the drawer fronts down there. And along with that, I've also prepped the stock for the drawer parts. So I have all the sides and back stock and bottom stock ready to go. So those can all be dovetailed together into some nice dovetail drawers, because why use anything other than dovetails? Now all that's cool and all, but what I was really spending a decent amount of time on is the fancy custom panels for the front doors of the tool cabinet. And these are the panels right here. I've actually been working on these for about a month. So let me just run you through the process here. So I had a really cool piece of birch crotch that I wanted to encapsulate in epoxy and have it look like the the crotch is basically just floating out in the panel on my doors. I thought that'd be a pretty cool look. This is not something I've ever done before or seen anyone really try. So before I went to April's to help her build her bandsaw mill, I did the epoxy pour to encapsulate that slab so that it could cure when I was gone. And then when I got back, the weather outside hadn't been that great and it's always been cold. So I've been putting off resawing that block into the actual veneer that I would then veneer down to a piece of plywood. I had to do that on my bandsaw mill because it's just too big for my indoor bandsaw. The rough panel was about 21 inches wide. And yeah, the only saw I have big enough to resaw something that big is my bandsaw mill, which, you know, a 21-inch panel seems big in the shop, but when you put that on the bandsaw mill, it does not look that big. That went really well. I wasn't expecting a whole lot of problems there. I just wanted to make sure I went slow and just kind of took my time with it. Didn't really want to rush, but it worked out just fine. So I could bring my veneers into the shop, get them sanded down to final thickness, and then prep them for actually veneering down to a substrate. Now, actually veneering panels is something that I have never done before. It's always seemed like just this complicated thing that I don't know why it seemed complicated, but after going through it, it's not really all that complicated. And having a vacuum bag in the shop, I think is going to open up a whole lot of possibilities. So these panels are all polished and ready to go for some finish. So the epoxy has been relustered, so to speak. And on the back side here, I veneered the most boring birch that I could find because I wanted to somewhat match the Baltic birch plywood that I got for the rest of the case. So that's what I came up with for boring birch, which actually isn't all that boring by comparison. Ugh. So that's something, I guess. So these panels, I am just super happy that they actually worked out. This is one of those times where I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I had an idea in my mind, and I'm just happy that I was able to get it out into the world and have it actually work out. So those are my nice custom panels for the front of the cabinet, and I am super happy that it worked out. So in case you're wondering, you can resaw a block of epoxy and you can veneer it down to a substrate. That's what I learned this week, and I have been putting that off for so long. I had that block of epoxy with the slab in it in the shop for like weeks, because I was like, I don't know if I want to run this to a bandsaw mill. Something can go wrong. But yeah, nothing went wrong. So the other thing that happened is my friends from Triton Tools came by for a few days to shoot a few videos with me. They were here for, what, 2.5 days. We shot 3 videos. So we shot a video on sharpening a chisel. We shot a video on making this sort of like bedside table thingamabobber. And we also shot a video on making some joints on a box type thing, just different joinery methods. So on this little box thing, I got a dovetail joint. We got variable box joint. We got angled splines and just regular like 90-degree splines. So that's kind of a fun, like, here's a bunch of different joinery methods for connecting wood at 90 degrees. This big honking thing, oh man. This is an exercise in through Morrison tendons. So we've got a nice big through tendon there. We've got 6 through tendons in the top. So that was a fun, quick-ish project. The idea there was to make something you could do in like a day. So that was the project idea there. That thing's heavy. So those 3 videos will be out on Triton's channel at some point in the future. I'll leave you a link to their channel so you can subscribe if you want to see those when they come out, and I'll also give you a quick reminder when they do. I am so out of breath. And speaking of videos that I should let you know about, if you haven't seen already, April posted the 2nd video of the bandsaw mill build, so that's over on her channel. That was on building the carriage and getting the whole bed and carriage outside of the shop. So check that out if you haven't seen that already either. So I think that's all I've been up to for the last 2 weeks. Let's take a look at some viewer projects. First this week is a desk by Dan. Dan made this desk for his granddaughter. It features 32 Morrison tendons, which are hand cut, and 188 box joints. It's made from Texas pecan and oak plywood for the sides and back, and has 4 coats of armor seal. Next is the Sideboard by Jay. It's made from quarter sawn white oak with book mashed oak burl veneer panels. Next is a lamp by Fergus. It's made from some cherry and beech rough sawn offcuts that he got from his dad. Fergus put together a write-up on the project, and you can find that over on his blog. Last this week is a football by Jared. Jared made this football for his cousin, who hosted their Saturday after Thanksgiving for 30 years. It's made from turned mahogany and maple. So I have several little things to tell you about as well. This first thing I'm pretty darn excited about. So when Triton was here, they brought me this invitation. They are sending me to a guitar making class at Crimson Guitars when I'm over there in May for Maker Central. So before Maker Central, I'll be at Crimson Guitars making a sweet, sweet guitar. I am so much looking forward to this. I have always wanted to try making an instrument. I don't play anything. I don't even know where to start as far as instrument building goes. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to be a really fun 6-day class making guitar. So then after that, I'll be at Maker Central. So if you're over there in the UK, Maker Central is that weekend. I think it's like the 12th, 11th, something like that. I'll put some information down there. That's in Birmingham, just like last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again, or any new faces that I didn't see last year there. When I get back from that, I'll be at Weekend with Wood. I'll be doing 2 classes there as well. So that's going to be, was it like the Friday and the Saturday or something like that? So if you're going to be going to that, I will see you there. And then, let me look at my list. And also, I was a guest on the Maker Minded podcast. That is the rebranding of the Green Woodworker podcast by my friend Donnie. I was on episode 1 of the Green Woodworker podcast, and I was on episode 1 of the Maker Minded podcast as he's rebranded it. So check that out if you haven't already. It was really cool to be back on that again and kind of like filling in all the gaps, like what's happened in the 2 years since I was on the first episode. So I'll leave you links to all of this stuff down below. So I think that's all I have for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today or anything here in my shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.